Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So again, we're back up at Accelerated, and the moment of truth has arrived to determine if the radiator with the new fan shroud does in fact fit in the Supra or not. So very, very good news. Everything fits exactly the way that it needs to. And it may be a little bit difficult to see. Let me get my phone out, use it as a flashlight. Switch hands real quick. You can see there is in fact clearance to the fan, albeit not very much, but everything fits and all is well there. So huge weight off my shoulders, huge potential disaster averted, and the only thing that we'll really need to do now is figure out a new routing for this upper radiator hose. So it'll likely sneak across the top of the shroud here, and I ordered little 1.5 inch long extensions for the inlet and outlet. Those just did not arrive before I was able to make the trip up here, so can't play around with the radiator hose or the radiator hoses for that matter right now, but at least the big part, the big issue, big potential issue is solved, crisis averted.
Don't get rid of it. What in that fucking miles? And then we can figure out what we're doing.
Also went ahead and I built the spark plug wires, so all 6 of those are in their rightful homes and rightful lengths and everything else. So that is another thing done, and I was working on the throttle cable until I got to this portion right here, and I have the wrong end for the actual connection to the throttle body itself. So this is a 36 inch long LS1 style throttle cable that uses this normal little brass deal that would wrap around the throttle cam and go into that throttle cam and drive the throttle body that way. However, this throttle body is set up for a 5 liter or a carburetor style one, where it just has a little post with a ball end on it, and the end of the throttle cable clips onto it. So I need to order the new end for that, which I don't have right now, but at that point I can thread that little ball end in, clip the throttle cable on once I get it trimmed to its appropriate length and all of that, and at that point the throttle cable will be completed and all will be well there. So actually mounting it up to the firewall, they had an extra Powerhouse Racing throttle cable bracket that I disassembled and modified to be able to be used with this throttle cable. You might be able to see a little bit of a notch in the top, or I guess the access relief in the top side of it there, right above where my middle finger is. So I took what Powerhouse had and pressed the centerpiece out and took just their mounting plate, cut that little access relief where I could slide the throttle cable down into its rightful home, threaded everything in, bolted everything in, and then discovered the actual cable linkage to the throttle body was an issue, and I can't do anything else about that right now. So I don't really have much else I can do on the car right now, at least as far as bolting parts on and what have you. But what I might do is pull my fiberglass dash down and start playing around with the locations of my indicator lights. So I'm not sure if I showed these or not. I don't think I did. So let me set you guys down and get some jumper wires, and I'll show you guys these lights because I'm actually pretty pumped about them. So the battery that I have for the Supra is dead, but we can use the battery in this nice Camaro they have here for, I guess, to show how this works. So this one right here is for the radiator fan, and if I can get my hand stretched over there, you can see that maybe it lights up green right there. So these I got from, I guess I'll link the website in the video here. I don't remember what it is off the top of my hand, but they offer a variety of different indicator lights, and I bought a handful of them for essentially all the momentary switches on the switch panel. And then for as far as the lights go, I got blinker indicators, high beam, low beam indicators, just to make sure that I don't end up driving down the road with a blinker light on, or a turn signal light rather, or forget to turn the headlights or the high beams off. So I have the fiberglass dash marked out, at least in terms of succession, where these lights are going to be located. So now I guess I can go ahead and figure out where exactly on the dash they're going to be located and maybe start drilling some holes. Now all of the indicator lights are roughly installed into the dash. So on this side, we have turn signal, low beam, high beam. On this side, we have turn signal. This will be for the water pump override. 2 fans. I believe this one is for the radiator fan. This one is for the transmission cooler fan. This is traction control, and this is nitrous arm. So, like I said, all of the all of the latching functions on the switch panel receive an indicator light, so that way I don't forget to turn them on or off respectively. And all of the lighting circuits have an indicator light, so that way I don't leave any of the lights on. So, I'm pretty happy with how this came out. And they aren't perfectly in line. I may have to end up pulling these out and tailoring the holes a little bit, but that'll be a job for later on, and I'll probably do that right before I end up coating the dash. But we'll call that good for the time being, and I think that I've pretty much wrapped up everything that I'm able to do on this trip up to Accelerated. So we'll get out of here, and that'll be about it for this trip up here, and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit when we're back at the home shop and see what we can get into from there. Today we're going to work on a pretty interesting manifold, and this manifold will be going to James Tall from the Cletus channel, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with him. So James contacted me about building a manifold for an SR20 project that he's putting together, and I said, yeah, I can do that for you. And then some time passed, and James has been extraordinarily patient with me while I've done things on my end to get to the point where I can finally build this for him. So we are going to start with the beginning and start with building the heart of every manifold, which is the merge collector. So this manifold will be 1¼ inch, 304 stainless, and I have plenty of pieces of it right here. I will take 4 of these pieces, tack 2 together, make 2 longer sections, and from there we can go ahead and cut the 4 collector pieces. So let me go ahead and get those tacked, and then we can get rocking on this manifold. The 4 pieces of our 4-in-1 collector are all cut and ready to be deburred. So I guess I'll go ahead and get the sanders set up and get these things cleaned up and ready to weld. Our 4-in-1 collector is all fabricated, tacked together, and ready to weld. So I'll go ahead and get this thing plugged up with some aluminum foil and one of the TIG Aesthetics purge plugs, get some argon flowing through it, and get it zapped together. Here is the finished product, at least of the base collector for James Manifold. So we have a nice little 1.25" Schedule 10 304 stainless 4-in-1. There you can see interior fit up maybe. And then here's one of the exterior welds. So this thing came out very nicely. I'm very pleased with it. But we are on to the next step now. So the next step is we need to take this base collector and make it fit this port on our T3 flange. So I'll go ahead and get this marked out, then we can trim it up, get it fit to the flange appropriately, weld that out, and then we'll be pretty much done with the collector at that point. The collector is all tacked to the T3 flange, but we have these overhangs right here. So I have my trusty mini sledge and my piece of 1/2" bar stock that ends up being the dollying punch for instances just like this. So I'm going to take this, put it in the vise, and hammer those areas out so they made up to the side of the port effectively, or properly rather. So let's go ahead and get that done, and then we can weld this thing to the flange and have this collector be completed and ready to be the heart of James Manifold. James collector is all welded up aside from the wastegate provision, which I'm not going to do that right now, as I want to play around with a few designs for it and see what I can come up with and what ends up being the best option and the most efficient. But this is what we are left with, and ended up being a pretty short collector, but it should leave enough space to have a 1.5" schedule pipe port on the side of it that will go to that will be the wastegate provision rather. And as usual, the collector is welded on the inside and on the outside, obviously, but really happy with how this came out. The welds all came out nice, and this will be a really good piece and should be plenty efficient for what he's trying to do with this. So that's going to wrap up at least what we're doing on James Manifold today, and that'll wrap up this video. So as far as work up at Accelerate is concerned, I'm pretty quickly running out of things on my plate to do up there. I think I have 1, maybe 2 additional trips left to finish up just a few other outstanding parts of, again, my side of the project. And then we are almost at the point where we can put fluids in it and try to start it up. But that will be obviously for another video as we're done with this one. So Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in, watching what goes on around here, and I guess up at Accelerated for the past few videos. And really looking forward to getting the Supra back here, playing around with it some more, and getting it finished the rest of the way, finished in quotation marks, obviously. But get it to the point where it's roadworthy again, and I can finally take it back out and drive it and enjoy it after all of this time. But that will be for a later date, because we're finished with this video now. So, as always, until next time, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you guys in the next episode.